Hi, and welcome to the Successful Franchisee's Beautiful View podcast. I'm Luke Fry, and this is our premiere episode. Today, we're going to be talking about the top 8 skills required to be a fantastic communicator. All leaders need to communicate, and they need to make sure that communication is taken down through their organization to every level. A little bit about me. I had a franchise for 20 years called Image First. It was in the Cincinnati area, and half of my team was with me for 15 years or more. I spent 19 years as a firefighter during that time, 11 of them as chief. And the overview, why I'm doing this podcast, it's because I see things now, obviously, after 20 years, that had I known back then, would have increased the value of my franchise quite a bit, especially at the end, not only with the cash flow during the 20 years, but after the 20 years when I sold it. What are the benefits of effective communication in your organization, in your franchise? First off, it leads to team cohesion. It helps everybody be able to talk with each other. They might not agree on everything, but at least they'll know and have an understanding of how to speak with each other with respect. It helps to reduce ambiguity and assumptions. Everybody has their own view of the world, and the more objective and concise your communication is with others, the better the message gets across. It helps to personalize work because, let's face it, you spend more than half of your time with your work family while you're awake. And it helps increase employee engagement. There's no guesswork. There's no anxiety for the unknown because you've been able to communicate with them what your vision and mission and your goals are to help you get there. Anyway, I hope you enjoy this. Again, the top 8 effective skills for great communication. And we're talking about the top 8 skills for effective and impactful communication. The top 2 skills are, in my opinion, the top 2 skills any leader of any organization needs to possess in order to be successful. Back to the common communication types. There's formal and informal. Formal is usually written. Informal is water cooler talk. It's hallway discussions, that kind of talk. Number 2 type of communication is directional. Are you speaking with people reporting to you? Are you speaking with your partner? Are you speaking with colleagues? The third communication type is this internal or external communication? That one kind of speaks for itself. And then lastly, is this communication oral or written, or a combination of the two? Now, the business communication basically has 6 objectives. That's 6 objectives. Our talk today will focus on 3 of these type objectives. There's one-way communication, and one objective is directive. Think about Tom Brady calling the next play for the Patriots in his huddle. That's directive communication. Informative, instructional. Hopefully this podcast is a little bit of both. Then there's inspirational. Again, maybe it's sneaking in there some. Sunday sermon would be a perfect example of inspirational communication. And then our focus for these top 8 skills are communication that's collaborative and problem solving. These are all two-way communication with two or more people. There's empathetic communication. Somebody's having a hard day, going through some issues that they didn't foresee. And you talk about things. Maybe it is work. Maybe they're having a rough time at work and you're just there to listen and possibly point them in the right direction. And passive communication. That's what people aren't saying. Watch for cues, their eyes, body language. What are their arms and hands? What are they doing when they're speaking or listening? How are they sitting? What's their posture? One of the greatest skills that I learned as an EMT was to be able to walk into a patient's room that called 911 to have us come and check them out. But we learned pretty quickly, just walking into a room, whether a person was truly sick and needed just to go to the hospital right now, or we could talk with them and get some history and other things like that from them. So those are the 4 types and the 6 objectives. And now we're going to dive into the top 8 communication skills. Now the top 8, we'll go from 8 to 1. Number 8 is intentionally reduce the distractions when you're trying to communicate impactfully. What do I mean by that? There's a time and a place for everything. The middle of lunch in a crowded cafeteria is not the time nor the place to have a conversation about reducing staff by 10%. Pick your time, pick your place to reduce the distractions so that all the focus can be on what needs to be said, whether it's collaborative or directive or whatever kind of communication. Number 7 skill for effective communication is practice. Pick any one of these and set your mind how you can practice that skill. Then seek feedback from a colleague or somebody that reports to you that you trust. Hopefully you trust all of them, but maybe one more than another. But seek just one person. Try and find one person that can help you with this. But practice, like anything else, this is a skill and needs to be practiced. The number 6 skill for effective communication is to pay attention to what isn't being said. Watch the eyes from the people or person that you're speaking with. What's their body language telling you? Are their arms folded in front and closed off? Are they thinking of their next thought before you're done speaking? If so, they're not listening even a little bit. Try and take a pause at that point and bring them back to focus. We'll hit that later on in one of the top 4 skills. The number 5 skill for listening well, for communicating well, is in business, there's always going to be some disagreement from time to time. As long as that disagreement isn't personal, which hopefully it's not in a business setting, seek out a win-win. Doesn't have to be consensus, but when there's strong disagreement, focus on what you have in common. What are the common themes that are running through both arguments? And then try and build from there, one step at a time. Now we're on to the emotional part for the 4th skill, because emotions do come into play. We're all humans. We're not robots. In a large team, not everybody's going to like each other on a personal level. Sometimes that can spill over. What you want to do in this type of communication is increase focus on objective behaviors. Try and take away from the emotion, acknowledge it, but try and temper it by focusing on objective behaviors. For instance, if John is always late for meetings, I could pull him aside after the meeting and say, John, it makes me feel like you don't respect our time when you're always late, when you're late for meetings. What can we do to fix that? It takes it away from the emotion and puts the focus back on the objective behavior of being late for meetings. The third top skill for effective communication in the workplace, as much as humanly possible, define assumptions. Everybody has a background, and no two people look at the same situation and think of it in the same terms. Try and define those and speak in plain English. The police still use 10 codes, but the fire department tried to use the 10 codes for a long time. They completely got rid of them before I even joined the department. Once in a while, there'd be an older member that would still use a 10 code, which for those that don't know, 10 codes are 10-4, 1050, 1051. It's basically a code that lets everybody know what's going on around them. But in the fire service, we speak in plain English because the 10 codes just got in the way. Not everybody remembered them the same. You can do that in the workplace too. Keep your language as simple as possible during business communication. All right, now for the top 2 skills. And in my opinion, these are the top 2 skills for any leader in any type of organization. Ask open-ended questions. You don't have to be the expert unless you're giving a directive speech or inspirational speech. You don't have to be the smartest person in the room. And the more open-ended questions you ask, the deeper you'll dig into what's going on. You'll have a better understanding. The people you're speaking with will understand what they're talking about better. And the absolute number one top skill of any leader when it comes to communicating is to listen 3 times more than you speak when you're dealing with two-way conversation. Really listen, stay in the moment. As a coach, I often catch myself coming up with the next question before the person I'm working with even has come out with the full answer. Focus on what the person is saying. Stay in the moment. There's no problem with a brief pause in between comments. That gives you time to form your thoughts, to sink in what the other person has said, and to have a proper response. Those are the top 8 skills needed to be an effective and impactful communicator in business place. Now that you know the top 8 skills to be an effective and impactful communicator, pick one, just one, and lay out a plan to improve. Small steps at a time. If you improve every day, you'll be an expert fairly quickly. Just pick one skill, focus on it, have a plan, and then watch the results as you keep trying.